So number one, I'm very humbled to be here, and I had the opportunity to do presentations in front of some very large groups. And I can tell you, and I probably should tell you this, like I think I've been the most nervous for this presentation out of all my presentations, because it's a little bit different in terms of what I want to try to accomplish. So, so with that, I'm going to jump in. So, a picture is worth 1,000 words, right? So a picture is worth 1,000 words. Does anybody know what this is? Has anybody ever seen this picture? Anyone? I will tell you, that's how I started researching for this presentation. I had never seen this picture. But this picture hopefully will have some relevance as it ties to what my key message is when I go through what I'm going to talk to you about. So we'll get back to that picture in a little bit. So this was my profile picture that if you saw the digital signage, and when I sent this to Amy, our communications team, like, well, it hides your face. Well, but it kind of talks about a little bit about who I am. So I do have a true passion for photography, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit. As the bio said, way too long, I have to shorten that bio. But I've been with Ingram for 20 years, and it's been an amazing ride. It's a great company, and I've had the opportunity to work with some amazing people. And so hopefully I can share some of the things I've learned along the way that help you with your journey and what you do. But photography is my passion. This is a picture in Australia on a trip that we're able to do. And one of the things that you'll see is I'm going to incorporate my pictures throughout my presentation. I'll explain why that's in a little bit here. So first and foremost, this is my family. And on the left, your left, is my son, Timothy. He's my oldest son. And he lives in Monterey Bay, California. And I'm proud to say that he is a sworn-in police officer in Monterey Bay. Started in August, went to the academy up there. And it's amazing to see your son make a paycheck after you pay for everything. I say that we're not done paying for everything, but I'm so proud of what he's been able to accomplish. He's 21 years old and he's a police officer. And I'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. On the right is my son Nico. He'll be 21 next month, so he'll have his first drink in a month. He's at the University of Pennsylvania, and got accepted into the Wharton Business School. So I'm very proud of his accomplishments and what he's done so far. He's actually was in New York City interviewing yesterday for an internship. So 2 boys that I'm extremely proud of, and a large part is because of my wife in the middle. So my wife, we celebrated our 26th wedding anniversary yesterday. And so we're driving, as soon as I finish this, we're driving up north to celebrate the weekend together. But she immigrated from Mexico when she was 9 years old. She came without speaking any English. She talks about how she used to drive around and they would read street signs, and there's a favorite sign that is kind of a very long-worded sign about no parking that she used to read with her sisters, and it was like they were trying to figure out what those words were. But she immigrated here. She has 12 brothers and sisters, including her, and she's the only one that went on to get her education, formal education, in getting her degree in child development and also a master's in administration. And she's been a big part of why our boys have been able to do what they did. And so the reason I share all this is because to me in life you have to have things that drive you and the things that make you wake up every day and do the things that you do. And my family is obviously a big part of that. This is a picture that I took in Hawaii. It was a storm drain, and that I wanted to share with you kind of a philosophy that I have that maybe you can think about in your own life, personal or professional. It's something I talked about a lot with my boys, and it's something I talk about with people that work with me around if you want to accomplish things, whether it's improving your presentation skills or meeting a personal development objective in your personal life or at work, the first thing you have to figure out is where do you want to go, and what do you want to try to accomplish. And it's important that you understand that and the people around you understand that. But really, to me, the way you get there is to focus on where you're at to get to where you want to be. And so I share that with you because it's something that drives me each and every day, and it's something that I try to instill in my kids, which is there's no replacement for hard work. And that comes in everything that you do, including presentations, and I'll talk about that. So that's a little bit about what drives me. I wanted to share with you my presentation journey because it is always evolving. And I have this love-hate relationship with presentations. The love part is when you get it right, it feels really good. And you know when you get it right. The hate part is that it takes a lot of work. And it takes work each and every time. You never finish that journey because each presentation, if you're going to do it right, you really have to put the work in to prepare for it. And so I wanted to walk you through that love-hate relationship and talk to you about my journey. And by the way, that picture was not the blood moon the other night, but this is a picture I took of the moon several years ago that I thought was really cool. So this is 2007. And this is maybe what a presentation would have looked like back in 2007. For those of you who've been around me for a long time know I'm fairly data-driven. I'm somewhat analytical. I'm somewhat detailed. And so that would come out in my presentations in terms of some of the people that know me really are laughing. But it would come out in the way that I presented because it's who I was. But there are times where this type of detail are really appropriate for meetings. Like if you're doing a results meeting and you need to be in the details, then this would be the right thing to present, perhaps. But a lot of times, too much information is not effective in terms of communication style. So this is a slide. I took numbers out because this is more recent. But this is a slide that I shared at our sales kickoff in front of our entire sales organization that's about results. And it's a completely different approach. I've incorporated my team in the background, and I've shared just a few data points about the results that are key to the message I was trying to drive as it relates to the results that we achieved last year. And so it gives you an idea of where I was at and maybe where I've come to, but I'm going to get into a lot more detail about that. And I'm going to start with a picture of Jennifer Anaya. For those of you that know Jennifer, she runs our marketing organization in the US. And she started to be a mentor for me. I have many different people that I look to be mentors depending on different things. And hopefully I mentor some folks along the way as well. But Jennifer, I really respected her because of her communication style. And that's her job. She helps with our corporate communication. And she knew I was struggling with a message I wanted to convey at our sales kickoff last year. And so she started spending some time with me. And she talked to me about what was my passion. And she knew I liked photography. And she knew I really loved technology. And so she goes, Tim, you should really bring something that you're passionate about into the way you present. Why don't you bring your pictures into your presentations? So it was that catalyst that got me to be very passionate about the presentations. And it started to make that hate part a little bit less hateful. It still can be a pain in the ass. It's actually, kind of puts a lot of pressure. So this is a picture of Jennifer in her kitchen. So her passion was cooking. And so you'll see when I go through an example of a presentation how I try to bring out the passions of our executive team as a way to deliver the message I was delivering, while also having some fun taking some pictures of some of the leadership team. And also trying to connect the dots with our broader organization about the person behind the executive that was going to be talking to them at any given time. So, find a mentor. Find your passion. So this is my son Timmy, Officer Ament, I should say. And the story with Timothy or Timmy or Tim is that both my kids did pretty well in school. But the difference was Timmy took a lot of cattle prodding along the way. And it was always pushing him to go make sure he finished assignments and do different things. He went up to go to school at Cal State Monterey Bay, and it was a similar thing. He was chugging along. He knew he wanted to be a police officer since junior high, but he had this commitment to get his degree because he knew that would be, help him in that career. And he got accepted into the police academy. Monterey Bay hired him, and they paid for the academy. And once he got into that academy, there was no stopping him. It was like, it didn't take any cattle prodding from us because it was his passion and he was pursuing it. And he worked his way through the academy, and this is the day he got sworn in up in Monterey Bay in the courthouse. And so the moral of the story there is passion drives you to be successful. So attach your passion to your communication style. Think about the things that you're passionate about, and how can you bring that through in terms of the way you present and communicate. So what I thought I would do is I'm going to walk through, I'm not going to deliver a presentation that I delivered at our kickoff, but I'm going to walk you through my thought process around the presentation that hopefully you can kind of take away some ideas for yourself. The situation was, for those of you that are with Ingram or even with Western Digital, there's an entire transformation going on in the marketplace around us. And we're faced with this challenge around this change that's happening in the marketplace, and how do we deal with that change, and how does Ingram Micro add value in that change that's going on. So that was the problem I was trying to address, or the message I was trying to convey was this opportunity exists, and how do we deal with it. So this was a picture that we reenacted of a true situation where I was in a customer meeting, and the customer was walking me through their challenge that they were having, and they ultimately were looking for how Ingram could help. And that is literally how I felt. I felt extremely uncomfortable because I didn't have all the answers for that customer's needs. And so I started with this slide in our presentation, and I put down the lead down there. And I think when you do a presentation, you want to do something in the beginning that draws people in, because that's what's going to get them to listen to everything else you have to say, is that lead story. If you think about the way articles are written in newspapers, they have the lead at the beginning, and they go in a little bit more detail, and then they have the close. So this is the lead for the presentation I gave, which was, I kind of said, I felt extremely uncomfortable. I find myself feeling extremely uncomfortable. And I also tried to do that to show the human side of who I am, because we all wake up in the same way in the morning, we all go sleep in the same way at night, we all have the same fears and same challenges, and I had a lot of fear in the marketplace and what I was dealing with as the leader. And so I tried to show that side of it as well, the personal side. Then I went on to share the story about, after I kind of did that lead, I went to a more personal side. And I shared the story of what Jen helped me with, which was my two passions. I had this love for computers. I got this computer early on when I was a kid. I joked around about my dad's mustache and the orange paneling in our house. But that was an early passion I had about computers and learning how to program. And this technology was so amazing. It wasn't common to have a computer in the home at that point in our lives. We also had a dark room at our house. This wasn't our dark room. This is one picture I certainly didn't take. But this is an example of a dark room. And technology back then was, we would go take a picture. You didn't have your phone and have immediate gratification of, you could see what the picture would look like. You would have to make sure you try to compose it properly, set the camera right. And then hopefully when you got into the dark room, you got a good picture. And so we had this dark room in our family home. And this is a picture that I took back then that I developed about my other hobby at the time, was I did model railroading. And I was quite the nerd back then. Maybe I still am, as some people say. But this was a picture that I took that captured, one of my other passions growing up. And the process of taking a picture, who's done photography and film? Because it's kind of an aged thing now, but it's making a comeback a little bit. There's people that are doing only film photography again and printing on paper because of just the passion behind it. So what I talked about was my two passions colliding into what's this digital transformation that happened in the photography space. And this digital transformation was the analog cameras being replaced with digital cameras, and the computers being able to do digital enhancements of the pictures. And that created an opportunity for me because I could work on the computer with the pictures, and I could take the pictures on the camera. And so it brought my two passions together. But what I went on to share was, that was for me. It created an opportunity for me, but change creates risk as well. So I shared with the teams an example of that. And this is a picture that I took in New York City that is an okay picture. That's just straight out of the camera. But if you start to enhance it, it looks a little bit better through digital transformation. And then if you do it again, even more, might be overdone, but you can make a picture that looked kind of okay, look better with digital transformation, digital enhancement. And so I was trying to show that with change comes opportunity and comes risk. And how does that happen? Then I shared another picture, and this is Greg, who works for us. And I showed this picture because Craig's a pretty well-known person in the company. He's got a great sense of humor, is an amazing presenter. And so I was trying to connect with the audience a bit, bring a little bit of humor. And Craig and I played hockey that night together. We both coached this fundraiser thing, and we went out there on the ice without helmets. Craig ended up with a bloody cheek, and I ended up with a mild concussion. And so it meant something to our sales teams who knew about this story. And then you can kind of, continue to enhance it, make it a little bit more edgy. So connect with the audience. Try to bring a personal aspect into your presentations, and that's part of what this was about. The next piece that I wanted to talk about was preparing. And the hard work just has to happen. And so I put in this presentation that I'm kind of walking through that I did last year at our kickoff, I probably put 10 to 12 hours of time into reading, thinking about the topic, how did I want to try to convey that topic, and trying to ultimately get to a point where I had the information I thought was right to pull the story together. So the story that I pulled together in my research was around the digital photography industry and the change that it went through that was very similar to the change that we were going through, and that this company Kodak, and this was a timeline that I found that talked about the history of Kodak, and I walked through key things that happened in the history of Kodak. From being a market leader where they were the first to introduce digital cameras, they had 90% share of film and paper, and 85% share of non-digital cameras at one point in their history. They at one point employed 144,000 people in upstate, or around the world, with a big chunk of that in upstate New York, near our Buffalo office. And they were the first to have like a technology that allowed for sharing of photographs before Facebook was around. They had the market advantage. They were the first to market leader, but then they filed bankruptcy in 2012. So why did that happen? And I tried to draw this parallel to the opportunity that we have with the change going on in the technology industry to where we're at. Kodak failed because they didn't come together. The digital teams never got the support, and the legacy team said film's never going to go away, and digital's never going to be the mainstream thing, and we know how that played out. And they never came together, and they never executed. Anybody recognize this picture? So this is a picture that was taken in 1945. It's with some Navy personnel coming back from the war, and it's made the cover of Time magazine, and the sailor just randomly picked this lady out of the audience and kissed her, and it was captured and made Time magazine. Anybody recognize this picture? This is Muhammad Ali, kind of an iconic picture, was also on Time magazine 20 years later, roughly. And what I've shared here is the common thing with these pictures is a company called Leica, which is another camera company that's been around for about 130 years. And they're still in business. And they, this is a picture of a Leica that took the picture in 1945. They were known for their lens technology and their simplicity of operation. And what I shared was that that's that same camera, and the camera on the right is a camera that they released last year. And so this is a company that stuck to what their core values were, and they came together and they embraced the change of digital disruption. The camera on the left is the old technology from 1966. No digital aspect at all film. The camera on the right is a complete digital camera, completely different technology inside. You can use the same lenses with the camera on the right with the camera on the left, like all these years later. And this camera cost $1,000 with a lens back in 1966. This camera cost $6,600 without a lens in 2017. Inflation took effect again. So, but the main story here was, why did Leica succeed? They almost failed. I mean, like this digital disruption that we all face, and think about Uber and the impact it's having to taxi drivers. Think about Netflix and how it's changing the media, the movie industry. Amazon and what they're doing to overall e-commerce, grocery industries. The healthcare industry lost like 300 billion, I think, in valuation when they announced something that they're going to be doing in healthcare that's going to change the way that companies do healthcare. So like, there's disruption that's happening through these companies, and Leica was one of those companies that almost failed. They almost filed bankruptcy, but they kind of came together and they figured it out. So I share all that because I was trying to convey a message, but it took work. And that's the thing that you have to do in presentations, is put the work in. The other thing I try to do is connect the dots. backing into the audience, this was an event that was taking place in Buffalo, and Buffalo is going through a lot of change. There's a resurgence going on in Buffalo. Buffalo was huge in the industrial era, but when the industry changed and manufacturing jobs move offshore and things like that happened, Buffalo kind of had a depression of sorts. There's a whole resurgence going on, and there's a thing called the Buffalo Billion, where the governor is investing money back into Buffalo to redevelop Buffalo, and it's actually having a major impact. So I tried to connect the dots with the audience around the opportunity that exists with change, and if you go embrace it, you can go leverage it to create a positive outcome. And then how do we solve that? We have this thing at Ingram we call One Ingram, and I was trying to talk about how with that risk comes opportunity, but the only way we get there is coming together as one and deliver the value that we deliver. So again, connecting the dots back. I tried again to do this thing where Kirk is one of our executives, and I tried to help the teams understand what coming together as one meant to Kirk, but also trying to connect the personal side of Kirk to the audience, because we're all human. And Kirk loves to paddleboard, so I did the picture of Kirk paddleboarding. This is Paul Bay. He talked about what it meant to him. And for those of you that know Paul, he's super competitive. He works out like crazy and likes to have a lot of fun. And this was one of the trips we do with our sales teams. And I joked around about trying to bring some humor in, how the guys back there are looking at Paul like pretty envious. And Craig Birmingham back there. And Craig is extremely red. And why is Craig red? And then, oops. I showed this picture of Craig, and that's probably why he's red doing the belly flop. So again, trying to have some fun, and Craig looking uncomfortable. And that brought me back to me being uncomfortable. So again, trying to bring it back to that first slide that I started with around me being uncomfortable. And I talked then about, back to the lead and why was I here, and I was uncomfortable, and there's this change going on. But hopefully they saw through that change, we can either come together as one, or we can not come together and fail like Kodak. But we came together last year in a big way. And so then I went on and talked about how we came together. I'm not going to go through the story. And I shared pictures of other executives and how they're part of this One Ingram micro message. Again, connecting the personal side of the executive to the message that I was trying to convey. Ultimately, I tried to also show what does success look like, because I was trying to convey a message for us to come together as one. And if we came together as one, what does that success look like? And this was a customer that we were trying to recruit away from a competitor that ultimately made the decision to come to us. And he made that decision because we came together, and he wrote an email to our CEO about how he never thought he would do business with Ingram. He had been with the competitor for 18 years. But we changed those odds and we came together. So that's what success looks like, and I felt that was important in the presentation. And then I last was closed with a call to action. And that call to action was a message from our CEO about that was the one last thing we needed to do, was come together as one. We had made investments, we had acquired companies, but we needed to come together as one to make it all happen. And that was the call to action for the group. And that's what I dropped the mic and I walked off the stage with this slide, which is, with change comes opportunity, and what are you going to do about it? And that's where I ended the presentation. So hopefully I gave you a little bit of an insight into like a thinking process around a presentation about how to maybe build it. And I thought I would wrap up with maybe some of the key messages around that. Number one, find your passion. I think that if you can find something you're passionate about and incorporate that into your process, and I can tell you it worked for me, it made that presentation process, the development part of it, a less hateful relationship and a little bit more enjoyable. I think it comes out when you present as well. There's no replacement for the hard work. The hate part is, I think we all have that same thing, is it's a lot of work to do it right, but you have to put that research in, gives you credibility, and it helps you do a better job because you become more comfortable. One of the things I struggle with, in all candor, is that some of our executives are able to have other people make their presentations, and they do a great job. They kind of give them notes of what they want, and they get the slides back and they present it. It's very hard for me to do that, and that could be actually a fault, because as I have more responsibility, it's very hard for me to get that time But my thinking process, when I develop my presentations, I'm thinking through what I'm going to say, because I think you probably talked about in past, like you have to kind of rehearse and be in front of a mirror and all that. I'm doing that throughout the process, and I have less time when I get done having to worry about what I say. I focus a lot on the opening, and I focus a lot on the close, because that's really kind of the meat of what you're trying to get across. The middle part is giving you that credibility of why people should care. Is the way I think about it. Tell stories. So hopefully you kind of saw throughout I told some different stories. The stories are how we remember things. There's a great book called Made to Stick. Anybody read that book? Highly recommend reading it in terms of a book that can help you with your presentation skills, because it talks about how simple stories stick around forever. If you think about the Aesop fables, and we all remember fables and stories that resonate. Who's in the story about somebody that fell asleep and got taken back to their hotel room and they got their kidneys taken out and looked rough? We've all heard that story. I think it's completely fake, but we've all heard the story because it lives as a story, right? Weird story. But, start with a strong lead, just to kind of re-emphasize that, and close strong. That's kind of my framework, the way I think about presentations and how to put them together. I'll end back to this picture and why I felt it was relevant for hopefully one of my key messages is, and this is a picture that was taken in 1996 by this guy that honestly I'd never heard of until I started researching this, Andreas Gursky. He's a German-born photographer. He actually teaches photography still in the university, and it's a picture along the Rhine River. He took that picture in 1996. He took this picture in 1999. Not a lot of difference, a little bit. A little bit higher angle, a little bit more enhanced. What's unique about this picture was back in that time frame, film photography was still the predominant, was the primary source of photography, but computers were being used to digitally enhance the pictures. They were scanning the images in, and then they would digitally enhance the images in the computer. So they were taken with film, digitally scanned, and enhanced. This picture actually has a factory in the background that he took out, and he enhanced the colors, and he did other things to enhance the picture. And there was a lot of controversy at that time because he tried to make his picture look more like contemporary art, more like a painting. And photography was not really well respected in that part of the art form. But he started to change that by making it look more like a painting. So this picture, the significance of it, is it sold for $4.3 million in 2011. $4.3 million. I mean, I think actually pictures would look better than that. And, but he made $4.3 million off of that picture. There's 6 of them. It's a 5-foot by 10-foot picture. So I think it's probably way more impressive when you're in front of the actual picture. But the key thing here is, hopefully this helps you remember the value of visuals. Because I think visual things in your presentations are worth something. For him, his visual was worth $4.3 million, and hopefully that sticks with you a little bit. He went back 3 years later to take that picture. I think it was worth his time to go back to redo it. And that's it. So I got